how important or how relevant would you say historical fiction is in our times, and especially historical fiction like yours?
I think there's no point writing historical fiction unless you're trying to find some modern relevance. I mean, we don't, if we wanted to read a book purely to be educated about history, we would read nonfiction. There's something else we're looking for from novels, and I think that something else is really no less than a reflection on what it means to be alive, and not just what it meant to be alive in the particular period of time that the writer is covering, but what it means to be alive now. You have to find some resonance with what people are going through, or the emotions they're experiencing, or the concerns they have. Otherwise, I don't think they'll pick up the book, or if they pick it up, they'll put it down. It has to connect in some way. And for me, what was really surprising about writing this book was how much some of the themes and concerns I was tackling, for example, about women's sexuality and agency, about the links between race and intelligence, about women's rights and race relations, how little progress has actually been made in relation to any of those things since the early 19th century. And one of the really strong responses that evoked in me, and that I think it evoked, well, I know it evoked in the characters, because that's how I sort of decided to express it, was anger. And I think that anger is a very logical response to the kinds of experiences the characters had, especially Frannie, and also to the kinds of experiences that people who face those restrictions have today. So whether it be misogyny or racism or homophobia, those issues are still very pressing and very current.
So who, in your opinion, does Frannie's character represent in today's society?
I think there's a bit of the autobiographical in Frannie. I mean, I hesitate to say that, because I don't want, obviously she does some very difficult things, some things that are very difficult to accept. So I don't want people to think that I'm a sort of murderous, raging woman. But, you know, her outlook on life and some of the observations she makes are not very far from my own thoughts. And that's not a coincidence, because I wrote about someone who's trying to navigate the world as a Black woman, who is having to adjust to having her intelligence and her abilities undermined and second-guessed, and who's having to adjust to a world that doesn't really allow her the full agency that she's capable of. It doesn't allow her to express her intellect. It doesn't allow her to fulfill her ambitions. And I've certainly experienced a bit of that. And I think women, and Black women in particular, will relate to that, will respond to it. And that was certainly what connected me to her when I was sort of grappling with creating her character.
So continuing on from, Frannie and what she represents and how we can relate to her and who can best relate to her, how important do you think is the fact that Frannie's experiences take place at the intersection of race and gender in this novel? And what are your thoughts on that particular intersection in real life?
It was very important for me, that intersection, and to make sure that it was highlighted in the novel, because as Frannie herself says, there is this impression that you can't be both Black and a woman, that because you have battles to fight on both fronts, no one ever realizes that, of course, you have that you are yourself the sort of embodiment of that intersection, which will mean that at times you will relate more to the particular struggles of women as a group, and at times you'll relate more to the particular struggles of Black people as a group. but that you yourself cannot be divided by those struggles or by being forced to fit into one category or another. And I think we lose sight of that. I think we do lose sight of that unique challenge to Black womanhood. And I wanted Frannie to address it simply by pointing it out. And throughout the book, she has experiences and interactions with all kinds of people. And at the end of the day, the closest identification she finds and the deepest love she discovers is with a white woman. They come together, in a sense, as women in the face of this world that would deny them their ambition and the sort of full expression of their love. And I think it's important because we do have to try to find common ground as women, I think. In that common ground, we find our strength. And we're often too divided to see that by issues of race and class and sexuality and all the other things.